Eugenie Doyle, and we farm at the Last Resort Farm in Monkton, which is about equidistant between Middlebury and here, northeastern Addison County. I'm curious as to know how many people here are currently growing ginger. Is there anybody? A couple. And how many people have plans to do so? Okay, great. I did an informal survey on the Vermont vegetable and berry growers listserv to find out how widely planted this up-and-coming crop is, how much it has already up and come. And I concluded, unless people were like in Mexico or something and weren't answering their emails, only about under 200 pounds currently planted in the state, to the best of my knowledge. So what that means, I don't know. I'll let you know what our experience is, and then please ask questions, and you can come to your own conclusions as to whether it's something to try on your farm. Probably all of us share the experience of looking at our dinner plate and saying, isn't this great? I grew all of this food. You know, maybe chicken, potatoes, sweet potatoes, carrots, greens. And it's so enjoyable, so satisfying to see that. And then this time of year, you kind of start to eye maybe the bananas in the produce section, or the avocados, oranges, lemons, limes, things like that, and ginger. And you think, wouldn't it be nice to be able to grow those things? Maybe at some point, those will be up-and-coming crops if climate change really changes. That would be the silver lining, I guess. But at this point, the one in that category, of tropical plants that is possible to grow here in the state is ginger. We have been growing it at our farm for about 4 or 5 years. We also grow a wide range of other things. We're former dairy farmers, and we have been trying, since we sold the cows, to grow non-commodity crops where we could actually charge the cost of production. Being a conventional dairy farmer is a real lesson in how devastating it can be to grow commodity crops. We're hoping that that doesn't happen to the vegetable, especially the organic vegetable business. But ginger is our latest experiment in this category. Oh, in the picture, I put this in there because you know how probably on all of your farms also, people are always taking pictures. And this was taken by a customer who then entered it in a contest with, I think it wasn't Vermont Life magazine, it was like Vermont magazine. And she won a camera. So she was really happy. So which ginger are we talking about? Some of you probably have seen the one on the left there in the woods, wild ginger. Also can be eaten, but that's not the ginger we're talking about. We're talking about the one on the right, Zingiber officinalis. It's a tropical plant. They're not exactly sure where it originated, but probably Southeast Asia. It is it's a perennial. In the wild, it's cultivated as an annual. Internationally, the processed ginger root is the standard of trade, that is dried ginger or candied ginger. In the United States, the biggest commercial production is in Hawaii, which is known for its root ginger. That's the brown, knobby rhizome that you are familiar with. And pretty much that's the only place in the US where ginger has been, until recently, matured. It's also grown somewhat in Florida hydroponically. Now, because of the ubiquitousness of hoop houses and hoop house and high tunnel culture, it is being grown as mature ginger as far north as Virginia. So that, however, is not what we in Vermont are going to be growing. Our niche is baby ginger, and that was the first slide that you saw up there. It's the uncovered with the brown peel. It's we grow it for 6 months rather than the full year that it takes to develop that skin and to become fully mature. We order the rhizomes from, we get ours from Biker Dude or Puna Organics in Hawaii, the big island in Hawaii. There are a couple of other sources, which I've heard very mixed reviews of. I think East Branch Ginger has been a really good source in the past. Susan Anderson used to be the dealer, sort of the East Coast dealer for ginger, bringing it from Hawaii. She now has her own operation in North Carolina, and I think some of the kind of kinks are being worked out of that. And then Paradise Pure is another one that I recently heard of. The rhizomes arrive in March. We immediately pre-sprout them. You can do that in a heated greenhouse, or you can do it in a heated room in your house. Temperature should be about 70 degrees. My husband says these look like cat litter trays. However, I think that's an exaggeration. You can put them in any soilless media. This is vermiculite, just spread as a single layer and kept moist. So we water them and then cover them with plastic and get them to pre-sprout. So a rhizome, as I'm sure you know, is basically a knobby stem, and they will start to put off vegetative buds indoors, and that helps them. That helps the season. That buys us a little bit of time. They're very, very sensitive to cold, as we would be too if we came from Hawaii or Southeast Asia. And we can't plant them even in a hoop house until the soil temperature is above 55 degrees. So we do monitor that very carefully. This is a 24 by 72 hoop house, and we have been planting 1/2 of that. You can see it's on the right half. It was planted with rye as a cover crop, and then that's rototilled in. And when the temperature reaches 55, we plant. That usually for us has been about mid to late April. Planting, those pieces then have pre-sprouted, and we make raised beds that are very narrow raised beds, about 2.5 feet apart, and plant the rhizomes the pieces, these are pieces of rhizomes, about 6 inches apart. We take a hoe, just make a furrow in the top of the raised beds, and plant them about 4 to 6 inches deep in the furrow, and then cover them with a little bit of soil, which we will, somewhat like planting asparagus, we will fill in that trench as time goes on. And I would recommend, in terms of fertilization, start with a soil test, and then they are quite heavy feeders, especially initially. You'll want to put in a lot of organic matter and some balanced fertilizer. We use ProGrow in there, and compost. As they start to get leaves, you want to cut back a little bit on nitrogen, because we want more energy in those roots than in the leaves. And planting these is very quick. So in terms of pests, our biggest pest has been a weed, chickweed, that has to do with our own personal seed bank. Others that I have heard of, and I know there are some growers in the state have had very bad luck with soil-borne or seed-borne problems, fusarium and bacterial wilt particularly. I think the main thing there, as with a lot of roots, is just to really check the health of your seed stock. Don't ever plant anything that seems mushy or questionable in any way. This, I think, is a problem for us getting really good seed stock, because it is all coming a long way. It's totally possible for a box of this fragile stuff to freeze, for example, on the way from Hawaii. And I think that's probably partly why some people have difficulty with the seed. We haven't had any insect pests of note, but I'm sure they're out there. And Hazel Riggs not here, is she? No. In field cultivation, I know there are many, many insect pests. However, those are mostly native to Hawaii. So we have a few years before those insects catch up with us here. You can also see we do put down drip tape in there. Initially, they need a lot of water to get established, and thereafter you just keep them watered well, but they don't like to be wet. We have pretty heavy clay soil, and that's why we do put them on the raised beds. You might not have to do that if you had loamier soil. We harvest in August, late August. Our yield is 9.5 pounds per pound planted. The range that I've heard of throughout the state on my informal survey was from about 3 pounds to about this. So there's going to be a fluctuation there, but I think you should expect more in the 8 to 10 pound per pound planted range. So you can see this is our hoop house at sharing the hoop house with tomatoes. This is not a picture from our farm. This is a farm in Virginia where they actually are bringing the ginger to maturity. So they're able to keep temperatures high for 10 to 12 months. And they're getting 8 to 10 pounds per plant of mature ginger. So not a huge difference in the weight there. I think that's a really beautiful site. I would say my recommendation, though, would be to start smaller than that if you're going to start. At this point, one of our limitations to growing this crop, I think, is the market. Everybody knows what the mature ginger is. Not everybody knows what the baby ginger is or what to do with it. This is what it looks like when it comes out of the ground. You pull or dig it with a fork. I mean, this is all hand cultivation. Then the roots need to be cut off, and it can be spray washed. Then the shelf life is another bit of a limitation. It will stay, unlike mature ginger, this will stay fresh, covered either with plastic or wax paper bags, some people use, in a cooler for up to a week. Further than that, it needs to be frozen, or it can be directly frozen. It does keep really, really well in a freezer, up to a year. When taken out of the freezer, you just grate it or chop it immediately. If you let it thaw out, you have a nice pulpy mush, which I think is really good for ginger juice, but most people would be pretty dismayed by that. They wouldn't know what to do with it. We sell it, I think these prices are pretty standard in the state. I've heard a little bit of fluctuation, but this is pretty much what I gathered. Our wholesale price here in Burlington is between $10 and $12 a pound. But there has been a problem with sticker shock because people don't want to buy something that's $22 a pound. So we've begun to bunch it, even for wholesaling, into quarter-pound bunches. When we sell it at the market or from the farm stand, that comes to $5 a bunch. That's pretty palatable. Really, nobody complains about that at all. We sell it with about 6 inches of stem on it, 4 to 6 inches of stem. The stem is totally usable. You can chop it up and put it into soups and stews. You can juice it. But there's an educational component here. It's going to catch people's eye at a farmer's market. Whether they decide to buy it or not, I don't, It's not our biggest seller, but it is delicious, and I think giving out recipes is really, really helpful. And stressing its beauty. If you wholesale it, you really have to work with the produce departments to have them have a display worth it. If they simply put it in their cooler next to the random little bulbs of turmeric that they might have there and a few little dry ginger, nobody's going to notice it at all. But if they can get it out into a central display, even for a short time, it's a very short harvest period, late August to early October, when the soil temperature starts to drop again. We made various flyers that we handed out to people, and all of that helps. You do have to be very careful, we found out, not to make any medicinal claims. You can't say ginger is great for treating nausea or digestive upset or inflammation or anything else, because we would have to put on there a thing that says this statement has not been proved by the FDA or something like that. So they're very careful about what brochures or flyers they will use. Okay, and then this is just my shameless little looking for help. And we have a couple of minutes for questions if anybody has any. Yeah?
Is there a point at which will your crop be damaged?
Yeah, yes, in the fall, you mean, at harvest point? Yeah, it will start to, the rhizomes that will start to rot. You know, you'll start to get some cold injury in there. So it starts to look a little purple and not very happy. As I say, you can harvest it all and store it in a cooler in plastic for a while or freeze it and then sell it frozen. Yeah?
Have you experimented with other means of preserving it than freezing?
We have not, but I've certainly heard of people drying it. And we are going to start using and selling the leaves, which we haven't done up till now, but I know some people in the state are selling bunches of leaves for tea or drying them and making their own tea. We're working with some processors now who are interested in using it in juices, you know, mixed juices and syrups, but we haven't. Do you have some experience with that? Some people candy it as well. Yeah, in the middle? Okay, so that won't work because it's not mature. And what we would, the only ginger I have now from our harvest last year is in the freezer. That, if I take it out of the freezer and plant it, would be just mush. So that won't work. At this point, we still have to get new rhizomes every year. Yeah? Yes, you?
Is there a difference in flavor between the baby?
I think there is. It's. I mean, for one thing, it's enormously fresh. It's like the difference between, we grow a lot of garlic, and it's like the difference between a bulb of soft-neck garlic that has come from China and a bulb that you pull out of your garden. You know, the baby ginger is juicy. It tastes very alive, and it's not from. If you buy a bulb, a rhizome of mature ginger in the store, it could be up to several years old, but certainly a year old. Yeah. So I think it's more pungent. Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Yes.
When you plant the little pieces, how big a piece do you plant, or like how many sprouts all?
Yeah. So the pieces are about. I think they're about 1 ounce pieces. So they're fairly small, but they have quite a few nodes on there that will produce. So once you've pre-sprouted it, they're generally about 3 or 4 sprouts on there. Yeah?
Do they ever get bloom when you fertilize?
No, but we're not letting it get mature to that point. Yeah, like that initial slide where you saw.
Okay, so that's another number of plants.
It is, and I think there are some people with greenhouses. I know Red Wagon Plants is now selling potted ginger. This is another possible horticultural possibility, but even there, I have never seen it bloom in Vermont, but the plant itself is very pretty. Yeah?
How moist do you keep the soil when you irrigate?
How do we tell if it's we like it to dry out during the day. And that you really have to, our soil holds water really, really well. So the best judge of that is your foliage above. You want the foliage not to have yellow tips and to be growing at a rapid rate. Maybe 2 more, and then I know we have some other talks to go. Yes?
How would you describe your soil?
Our soil is, yeah. That's how I would, it is clay.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we have a range, and the hoop houses themselves have had a lot of a lot of compost amendments. So, yeah.
Do you know if anybody is making extracts out of it?
Extracts,
Right, like as another way of preserving.
right?
I guess the.
Like what Urban Moonshine does with tinctures, things like that. Yes, I believe they are. I don't think they're using, at this point, they're not using local
They're not using
local ginger, yeah, because it hasn't really been available. I do know that, you know, the price is going to be prohibitive for some, for processing purposes. Yeah.
Do you see supply, like seed supply as an issue?
I have heard this year, has anybody here tried to get seed and was not able to? No, oh, okay, because I have heard from people. I know that Puna Organics, Biker Dude, runs out every year. I know there are a lot, I mean, right now there's like lava. He's out, okay, and East Branch Ginger is not taking orders this year. They had some problem. And the other one, Paradise, I think might, I don't really know. I do think that's a problem, yeah. There are a lot of problems in the field for this. However, their yield is like 20, did I already say this? 20 to 1, 20 pounds yield versus 1 pound planted. So in Hawaii, so if you really want to grow ginger, that's the place, I think. I mean, yeah.
Varieties, I noticed when I ordered it, you had all these different varieties.
Right, we're growing the yellow, so it's the smaller yellow variety. There's one called Galangel, which is larger. It's a little bit more cold sensitive, which, you know, for us is like, we don't want one that's, we want the hardiest one possible. We did, yeah. So I haven't tried the others. Turmeric is another one that people are experimenting with. We haven't gotten to that yet, but maybe someday. Yes, one, yeah.
Have you had interest from chefs in terms of, like, can they work with the price point that you need, or is it prohibitive at this point?
So we don't really like to work with chefs all that much because they like wholesale prices for retail amounts, my own personal feeling. But a lot of other people do. I think there's a niche out there. So yeah, we do work with one, Mary's restaurant in Bristol, and they, you know, they love it, but they always complain about the price. I've never met a chef that didn't complain about the price. Are there any here? No, okay. All right, thank you.